At my sister's birthday party, she stepped onto the catwalk in the middle of our family's flagship store, sequined dress flashing under the lights, raised her champagne glass and stared straight at me. "Dad is signing the entire Whitaker Couture over to me," she declared to all 80 guests. "Jade gets nothing, and honestly, she should just disappear from here." The room lost it. Cheers, whistles, phones, filming. Someone yelled, "About time I didn't move." I set my glass down, slow, deliberate, and smiled the smile you wear when everything is about to burn. "Dad?" I said, calm enough that the music nearly swallowed it, but loud enough for the front row to freeze. "Should I tell them, or will you?" His face drained of color. My sister's smirk vanished. "Tell us what," she snapped, voice cracking with panic. "What the hell are you talking about?" "My name is Jade Whitaker, and some families don't explode with yelling. They explode with one sentence nobody saw coming." Before I show you exactly how that night ended, drop your city in the comments right now. I need to know how many of us have sat at a celebration while the people who raised us decided we were worth nothing. Let's see how many are watching from the same kind of table. My name is Jade Whitaker, 33, senior buyer for one of the biggest fast fashion chains in Los Angeles. I live in a one-bedroom in Koreatown with a view of a parking lot and 0 family photos on the walls. If you'd seen us growing up in San Diego, you would have thought we had the perfect coastal California life. Big house on the hill, parents who owned Whitaker Couture, 3 boutiques that dressed half the prom queens and debutantes south of Orange County. On the surface, we looked like the kind of family that belonged on a postcard. But there were always 2 versions of every story in our house. Riley, my younger sister by 6 years, got the version where money grew on trees. Designer bags for her sweet 16. Private school tuition without blinking. Dance, voice modeling classes, whatever she pointed at mom and dad made it appear. Riley never heard the word no. She just heard "yes, princess" in surround sound. I got the other version. Hand-me-downs until I was old enough to get a job at 14. Public school because we're saving for the business. College applications I filled out alone at the library after closing shift at the smoothie bar. When I won a full-ride scholarship to FIDM, Mom said, "That's nice, honey," then turned back to Riley's new prom dress fitting. I never hated Riley for it. She was a kid. I just learned early that if I wanted anything, I had to build it myself, brick by unpaid brick. The only person who ever saw me was Grandpa Harold, Dad's father. He started Whitaker in Whitaker Couture, the man who opened the first store on Garnet Avenue in 1988, with nothing but a sewing machine and a dream. He was already in his late 60s when I was born, tall, silver-haired, quiet. He didn't say much, but when he looked at you, you felt looked at. On Saturdays, when I was little, he'd pick me up in his old Cadillac and drive me to the flagship store before it opened. He'd let me sit on the cutting table, hand me scraps of silk and lace, teach me how to tell real Chantilly from cheap knockoffs by touch alone. "Feel the weight, Jade," he'd say. Quality always has weight. He never raised his voice at Dad for the obvious favoritism. He just slipped me $20 bills when no one was looking. Paid for my SAT prep book, showed up alone to my high school graduation. With a proud grin and a small velvet box inside was the gold signet ring he wore when he signed the very first lease in '88. "This is for the one who actually listens," he told me. When I moved to Los Angeles after graduation, I still drove down every few months, not for Mom and Dad, for him. We'd sit in the back office drinking bad coffee while he told stories about the early days, bankrupt suppliers, shoplifters, the year they almost lost everything in the '94 recession. He never once complained about Dad turning the brand into something flashier, more Instagram than craftsmanship. He just looked tired. The last time I saw him healthy was 2 Thanksgivings ago. He pulled me aside, pressed the original store key into my palm, the heavy brass one with the worn teeth. "Keep this," he said. "Someday you might need it more than they do." He passed 6 months later. Quiet, quick, the way he lived. The funeral was big, lots of local designers' news cameras, Riley crying prettily in head-to-toe black Chanel. I stood in the back row in the only black dress I owned from Target and didn't shed a tear in front of anyone. After that, I stopped coming home unless I absolutely had to. Holidays became texts. Birthdays became Venmo transfers. I told myself distance was survival. I had no idea they were about to make distance impossible. 11 months ago, Dad called me on a Thursday night while I was still at the office, buried in spring buy spreadsheets. "Jade, I need you home this weekend," he said, voice too bright the way it always got when he wanted something big. "We're finally opening the 4th store in La Jolla. Just some paperwork. Quick signatures. Family thing." I knew that tone. I'd heard it when he asked me to co-sign Riley's first car at 19. But I was tired, and it had been months since anyone asked me for anything that sounded like inclusion. So I booked the last flight Friday evening. I landed at San Diego just after 9. Dad picked me up himself, no driver, no mom, no Riley. That should have been the first red flag. He talked the whole drive about marble floors and new Italian lighting, how this location would put us on the map. I nodded, stared out at the dark ocean, and felt the old knot tighten in my stomach. Saturday morning, they had the dining table cleared like a conference room. Thick folder centered on the placemat, 2 pens lined up perfectly. Mom pouring coffee she never drank. Dad slid the stack toward me with the same smile he used on investors. "It's just a restructuring," he said. "Better rates, bigger line of credit. You're the only one with the credit score the bank loves. Takes 5 minutes." I opened the folder. 58 pages. Numbers blacked out in places, clauses I didn't understand. My name already pre-filled on every signature line. "Can I take a copy to read on the plane?" I asked. Dad's hand twitched toward the papers. Mom's coffee cup stopped halfway to her lips. "It's time-sensitive," Dad said. "Bank needs it Monday." I closed the folder anyway. "I'll have to my lawyer first thing Monday." The air changed. Mom set her cup down too hard. Dad's smile froze. "Jade, this is family," he said. "We don't need outsiders." I stood up. "Then why does it have my name on the guarantee line?" Silence. The kind that makes your ears ring. I took photos of every page with my phone right there at the table, right in front of them. Dad didn't stop me. Mom just stared at the folder like it had betrayed her. I flew back to LA that afternoon. Sunday morning, I walked the copies into the legal department at work. My friend Sarah, senior counsel, owed me a favor. She called me Monday before lunch. "This isn't a restructuring," she said, voice flat. "It's a personal guarantee. If you sign, you're on the hook for every dime of their commercial debt. Current balance $680,000 and climbing. 2 mortgages on the stores, 1 in default. They're 90 days from foreclosure." I sat down hard on my couch. "Anything else?" I asked. "Yeah," she said. "Your parents took out the second loan 3 years ago and never told you. If the business tanks, the bank comes after you first. Your salary, your savings, your future earnings. All of it." I hung up, opened my laptop, and pulled my own credit report just to watch the hard inquiry from their bank pop up like an accusation. That night, Dad called again. Same bright voice. "Did your lawyer look at it?" "Everything good." I let the silence stretch. "I'm not signing, Dad." He laughed, nervous. "Come on, Jade, it's just paperwork." "No," I said. "It's 680,000 reasons I'm not signing." The line went dead quiet. Then Mom grabbed the phone. "You're being dramatic," she hissed. "This is for the family legacy." "Legacy doesn't put my name on someone else's bankruptcy." I answered and hung up. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I blocked their numbers for 48 hours unblocked when I knew they'd be asleep, and started requesting every public record I could find on Whitaker Couture. I thought that would be the end of it. I was wrong. Within weeks, the plan just changed targets. After I walked away, everything changed direction fast. 2 weeks of silence. Then Riley's Instagram lit up like Christmas. First post, mirror selfie in the flagship store. Arms wide caption, "Big things coming. Whitaker Couture takeover." Next day, video tour of the back office spinning in Dad's chair, future CEO vibes. By the end of the month, she was doing full try-on hauls wearing next season samples tagging the brand with soon-to-be mine. Mom started leaving voicemails that all sounded the same. Riley's so excited. It just makes sense. You're so busy in LA anyway. I never answered. I just watched the performance from 3 hours north and started doing my homework. I opened an account at the same branch Dad had used for 20 years, walked in wearing a blazer and the calmest face I could manage, and asked for copies of every notice sent to Whitaker Couture in the last 18 months. The teller recognized the name, hesitated, then disappeared for 15 minutes. She came back with a thick envelope and a look that said she was sorry for whoever was about to read it. Inside, final demand letters, default notices, acceleration clauses, a 90-day cure period that had started 41 days earlier. One letter from the bank's recovery department laid it out in black and white. If the $680,000 wasn't brought current, all 3 locations would be padlocked and inventory auctioned. I paid the copying fee, took the originals to a notary, scanned everything to a private drive, and printed 2 full sets on heavy paper. One set went into a new black leather folder I bought just for this. The other stayed locked in my desk at work. Riley kept posting engagement photos in front of the store window, Blake's hand on her waist caption, "Building our empire together." Blake Harrington Trust Fund Finance Bro Family Law Firm on every high-rise in downtown San Diego. He commented heart emojis on every story like he'd already signed the lease in his head. Dad sent one text during that stretch. "We're moving forward. Hope you can be happy for your sister." I screenshotted it, added it to the folder. Mom tried FaceTime twice. I let it ring out both times. I flew down once unannounced on a Wednesday, when I knew they'd all be at the store for inventory. I parked 2 blocks away, walked in the service entrance with the key Grandpa Harold gave me years ago, and spent 40 quiet minutes photographing every overdue invoice taped to the office door, every red stamped envelope in the mail pile. The place smelled like new leather and panic. On my way out, I passed Riley in the hallway. She was on the phone laughing about closing gifts for the staff once I take over. She saw me startled, then recovered with a tight smile. "Didn't know you were in town," she said. "Just picking up something I left behind," I answered and kept walking. That night, she posted a photo of herself holding a tiny gold key on a ribbon. Caption: "Keys to the kingdom coming soon." I closed the app, opened the folder, and added the final pages, the sheriff's sale schedule the bank had quietly filed. Date circled in red, 30 days after Riley's 27th birthday. I zipped the leather folder, slid it into my work bag next to my laptop, and booked a single night in San Diego for the party I now knew was coming. I wasn't planning to start a war. I was just done letting them hand someone else my noose. Riley's 27th birthday was 6 weeks away. 6 weeks after I locked the folder in my bag, the invitation arrived. Not a text, an actual thick cream envelope delivered to my office by courier. Gold foil lettering, Riley's new monogram embossed on the back flap. Inside, heavy cardstock that read, "Riley Whitaker turns 27, a night to remember," and below it, in smaller script, formal, 8 p.m., Whitaker Couture Flagship, Pacific Beach. Mom had added a post-it in her perfect handwriting, "Please come, sweetheart. Family should be together for this one." I stared at it for a long time, then stuck it on my fridge with a magnet shaped like the Los Angeles skyline. Every morning for the next month, I saw it while I poured coffee. Every morning, I left it there. The night finally came. I flew down that afternoon, checked into a hotel under my assistant's name, and walked into the flagship store at 9:15, wearing a simple black column dress and the calmest face I'd worn in years. They had transformed the entire showroom. Black drapes covered the street windows, turning the space into a private club. A DJ booth sat where the bridal gowns usually hung. Strobe lights swept across thousands of sequins, making the racks look like rivers of liquid metal. Long tables overflowed with lobster towers, raw bars, and pyramids of champagne flutes. More than 80 guests, Riley's influencer circle, Blake's finance crowd, half the San Diego social register, laughed too loud and filmed everything. Mom spotted me the second I stepped through the side door. She rushed over in a champagne silk gown, air-kissed both cheeks, and whispered, "You came. Thank you, honey." Dad gave me a stiff hug and a look that said, "Don't ruin this." I took a glass, found a shadowed spot near the fitting rooms, and waited. At 10:30, the DJ cut the music cold. One white spotlight sliced down the center catwalk. Riley stepped into it like she'd been born for it, custom silver sequin mini catching every flash, 6-inch heels, hair in long Hollywood waves. Blake stood just behind her in midnight blue, arm around her waist, grinning like he already owned the place. She snatched the wireless mic from the DJ and tapped it twice. "Can I have everyone's attention?" Her voice carried over the sudden hush. "I need to say thank you for being here on my actual birthday. This year has been life-changing, and the biggest change hasn't even happened yet." The crowd leaned in. She spun slowly, letting every phone catch the dress. "Dad has decided it's time for new blood," she said, eyes locking on me across the dark showroom. "So he's signing the entire Whitaker Couture over to me. All 3 stores, the brand, the legacy, everything." The room detonated. Screams, whistles, glasses clinking. Someone started a Riley chant that half the guests picked up. She soaked it in, then lifted one hand. "And Jade." She smiled, the sweetest knife I'd ever seen. "She gets nothing. And honestly, she should just disappear from here." The cheering doubled. Phones swung toward me like spotlights. Mom was already crying happy tears into Dad's shoulder. Dad raised his glass in a proud toast. I took one slow sip of champagne, set the flute down on a passing tray, the soft clink somehow louder than the music had been, and started walking toward the catwalk. Conversations died as I passed. I stopped 10 feet from Riley, close enough for the spotlight to paint us both silver. "Dad," I said, voice calm, clear, carrying to the back wall, "should I tell them or will you?" The room went dead. You could hear champagne bubbles popping. Dad's face lost every drop of color. Riley's smile cracked clean in half. Blake's arm dropped from her waist. Grandpa Harold, parked in his wheelchair near the front row, tightened his grip on the armrests and stared at his son like he was waiting for the man to finally grow a spine. 80 phones stayed up, red lights blinking. I pulled the black leather folder from my clutch and held it against my hip. Silence stretched until it hurt. I didn't say another word. I didn't have to. I didn't wait for his answer. I pulled my iPad from the clutch, tapped the remote in my pocket, and the massive screen behind the catwalk, normally used for fashion show footage, lit up white. First slide, the bank's official letterhead. Second slide, total outstanding balance in bold red, $680, $412.83. Third slide, default notice dated 91 days ago. Fourth slide, sheriff's sale scheduled for exactly 14 days from tonight. I let the numbers hang there for 5 full seconds while the room tried to breathe. Gasps rippled outward like someone had dropped ice down every spine at once. Riley's mic slipped in her hand. "Turn that off," she hissed at the DJ. He didn't move. Blake stared at the screen, mouth open, then at Dad, then at Riley. His face went the color of old paper. He reached into his tux pocket, pulled out the velvet box he'd been carrying all night, opened it, and let the diamond engagement ring fall. It hit the marble with a sound like a gunshot. He didn't say a word. Just turned and walked straight through the crowd's shoulders, shoving people aside, out the side door to the parking lot. The alarm chirped once as his Porsche roared away. Dad finally found his voice. Jade shut it down. "Now." I tapped again. Next slide, the personal guarantee. They'd tried to trick me into signing my name already typed on the line. I zoomed in so everyone could see the forgery attempt. Mom made a sound like a wounded animal and clutched Dad's arm. Grandpa Harold pushed himself up from his wheelchair with both hands on his cane. 81-years-old spine bent, but his eyes were steel. He took 3 shaking steps forward until he stood between me and Dad. "You listen to me, Gregory?" he said, voice cutting through the dead air like a blade. "I built this place with my own hands. I watched you turn it into a circus. And tonight, you stand here trying to hand my life's work to a child who thinks it's a toy while you hide $500,000 in debt." He pointed the cane straight at Dad's chest. "You have shamed this family name in front of God and every camera in San Diego." Dad opened his mouth, closed it. No words came. Riley finally screeched, "This is fake. She's lying. Turn it off." I tapped one last time. The final slide, the bank's recovery department letterhead dated yesterday, addressed to Whitaker Couture LLC, stating that due to continued default repossession, would commence immediately upon expiration of the cure period. The front glass doors slid open with a soft chime. 2 people in navy suits walked in. Mr. Carlson, senior vice president I'd met at the branch, and Mrs. Lawson from the asset recovery firm. They carried bright red foreclosure notices the size of posters and a roll of yellow tape. Mr. Carlson didn't raise his voice. "Whitaker Couture, LLC, by order of First Pacific Bank. This property and all inventory are hereby seized effective immediately." Mrs. Lawson peeled the first sticker and slapped it across the main register, "Officially closed. Property of First Pacific Bank." Guests started backing away like the floor was hot. Phones were still up, but now they were shaking. Riley lunged at me. "You did this. You planned this." Security, 2 off-duty cops the bank had apparently sent ahead, stepped between us. Grandpa Harold turned to the crowd, voice steady. "Show's over, folks. Anybody who still owes us money, pay the bank. Anybody we owe the bank will contact you. The rest of you, thank you for 35 good years." Mom was sobbing into Dad's shoulder. Dad just stared at the red stickers like he couldn't process the color. I closed the iPad, slipped it back into my clutch, and looked at Riley for the first time all night. "You wanted the keys to the kingdom," I said quietly. "Congratulations. Here they are." I reached into my pocket, pulled out the original brass key Grandpa had given me years ago, and set it on the catwalk at her feet. Then I walked out the same side door Blake had used. The cool night air hit my face. I could still hear Riley screaming inside the yellow tape, ripping cameras flashing through the glass. 3 weeks later, everything was gone. The flagship had a steel roll-down gate, pulled tight, red foreclosure stickers plastered across the glass like wounds. The second store in La Jolla had auction signs taped inside the windows. The third location in Del Mar was already half-empty racks rolling out on dollies to waiting trucks. I never went back to watch. I didn't need to. The local news did it for me every night at 6 and 11. Dad filed Chapter 7 the Monday after the party. Personal and business bankruptcy. Liquidation. No repayment plan, no second chance. Just a judge's gavel and a trustee taking whatever was left. The house on the hill went into escrow 2 weeks later, bought by a tech couple from San Francisco for cash, 30% under asking. Riley's fall was faster and louder. Her biggest modeling agency dropped her the same week the videos hit 1 million views. Brand safety concerns, the email apparently read. 2 lingerie campaigns pulled her images overnight. Her follower count went from 680K to 220K in 14 days, then flatlined as the unfollow notifications became white noise. Blake never called again. His Porsche was spotted at LAX the next morning. Rumor said he took the first flight to New York and transferred to the family office there. Riley moved out of the leased condo in Little Italy and into a 1-bedroom in Oceanside, the kind of place with popcorn ceilings and a shared laundry room that always smelled like dryer sheets and weed. A friend of a friend sent me a photo once, Riley in a black polo and name tag folding jeans at a fast fashion chain in the mall. The caption just said, "Karma called in sick." Mom and Dad rented a 2-bedroom apartment above a nail salon in Claremont. I know because the return address showed up on the one piece of mail they sent the bankruptcy notice listing me as a potential creditor, standard form, nothing personal. I shredded it without opening the envelope. No one texted, no one called, not even on my birthday. 3 months later, I kept working. 12-hour days turned into 14. I got promoted to director, moved to a bigger apartment in West Hollywood, bought plants I actually remembered to water. Life didn't feel like victory. It just felt quiet. Grandpa Harold's health declined fast after that night. The stress, the doctors said. He spent his last weeks in a skilled nursing facility paid for by Medicaid because the bankruptcy ate everything else. I visited twice. He couldn't speak much anymore, but the second time he squeezed my hand and managed one sentence. "You did right, kid." He died the following spring. The obituary was short. No service. The trustee had already sold the cemetery plots. Riley tried one comeback post 6 months later, a tearful video sitting on her studio floor, apologizing for getting caught up in family drama, asking followers to give her grace. It got 40K views and 12K dislikes before she deleted it. Mom sent one email from a new Gmail address. "We're starting over. Maybe one day you'll understand." I marked it as spam. Dad never reached out at all. 9 months after the party, my phone stayed silent on every holiday, every Sunday, every random Tuesday night when it used to ring with guilt trips or emergencies. Silence became the loudest answer I ever got. 9 months passed in total quiet. I changed my number the week after the funeral, blocked every account that still carried the Whitaker name, and let the past sink like a stone. One Saturday afternoon in early fall, the doorbell rang. I opened it to find a 16-year-old girl standing on my mat, awkward in an oversized hoodie, holding a thick manila envelope against her chest. "Hi, Jade," she said, voice cracking a little. "I'm Haley, Uncle Travis's daughter. Your cousin." I hadn't seen her since she was in braces. Now she was nearly my height. She thrust the envelope forward. Grandpa Harold's lawyer finally tracked me down. He left instructions that only I could deliver this. Said I was the only one still neutral. I took it. Heavy. Sealed with old-fashioned red wax. Inside a new deed, a cashier's check, and one handwritten page in Grandpa's shaky scrawl. The deed was for a 2-bedroom condo on the Venice Beach boardwalk, fully paid, no mortgage, title already transferred into my name alone. Market value on the attached appraisal, $1.2 million. The check, $350,000, drawn on an account the bankruptcy trustee never found. The letter was short. "Jade, I knew what they were planning long before they did it to you. This is what I saved when I still could. Live well. Don't look back. Love always." Grandpa Harold. Haley shifted on her sneakers. "He made me promise not to tell anyone until you had it in your hands." I stared at the pages until the words blurred. She waited for tears, for questions, for something. None came. I folded everything back into the envelope, stepped inside, and closed the door without a sound. No thank you, no goodbye, no explanation. I leaned against the closed door for a long time, listening to her footsteps fade down the hallway. Then I walked to the kitchen, poured myself a glass of water, and watched the ocean from my new living room window that I didn't even know I owned an hour earlier. Some people think cutting family off is punishment. It isn't. Silence isn't complicity. Cutting the rope is freedom. And for the first time in 33 years, I was finally completely free.